Hello, everyone, and welcome to Secret Spaces. This is a weekly Twitter space featuring contributors to Secret Network and the Cosmos ecosystem, as well as updates and news. We thank you for joining us today, and we'll be talking today about the past week of events that we've attended in Paris, and we'll have a brief look at future events. And I also wanted to bring up the topic of Web3 community, what it means, and how privacy impacts it. So to start out, let's introduce our speakers. I'm Lisa Loud. I'm the executive director of the Secret Network Foundation. And with me today are Jay and Lindsay. All right, Lindsay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, yes, I am the events lead for Secret Network Foundation, and I'm excited to be here and talk about all the cool things we did last week.
We'll get Jay when he pops in with his microphone. But Lindsay, to start with, do you want to just give us a quick list of all of the events that we both attended and hosted in Paris last week? Or is it last week or the week before?
We were there for so long. We were there for like 10 days, so it encompassed 2 weeks, but
Yeah, right.
we were so busy. So we were able to actually get tickets for ETHCC Paris, which was its own feat because the tickets were very hard to come by. So we were able to attend a couple of those daily sessions. And then we also were at OsmoCon where you spoke. We did a couple of side events that week. We did the Pixel Party with Halborn, which was featuring gaming, and we talked about our VRF. We also did a Cosmos specific event, which you, Lisa, were a part of. We did a Women in Cosmos event, Cosmos on the Vine, and then we did a fourth event at the end of the week before Nebular that was specific to our VRF. So we were just all over Paris.
Lindsay, if you had to pick one event that really stood out in your memory, whether it was the best event or, just an event that was memorable or gave you some interesting experience, which one would you pick and why?
That's tough. I think it would be a tie between the Cosmos women's event and then the Cosmos event we did at the NFT factory. The women's event was really special because it was the only women's side event that week, and people were so eager to have a safe space. But the Cosmos event we did at the NFT factory, the Cosmos Anya Vault, was really great because the conversations were so good and people were so interested in the topics we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We had the panel on mass adoption and usability, and it was just, I think the conversations were so timely that it was really great to see people so engaged in how we can move the Cosmos ecosystem forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Cosmos Oniva event was, I think, it was the first event I attended because I missed the Pixel Party with Hellborn. I heard that one was pretty cool. So why don't you give us a rundown of the Pixel Party to start with?
Yeah, the Pixel Party was super fun. Alyssa from Hallburn found this really great arcade. And so it was Hallborn, it was oh my gosh, I'm blanking. There were 4 other sponsors and I feel so bad. But it was all about gaming, different aspects of gaming in Web3. And so we didn't, unfortunately, demo our VRF that night because Skrilla got food poisoning, unfortunately. But people were so excited to talk about VRF. Like, I mentioned it to a couple different developers, and they were instantly like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool! I can't wait to, I can't wait to, try it out." And we had a lot of secret fans there that were just excited to see us in Europe and see us in Paris. And it was a really fun way to, I think, kick off the week because that was a Tuesday night event. So it was one of the first side events for the week. And it was really great energy. People were really excited about gaming in Web3 and specifically we're interested in not only what we're doing, but a lot of our privacy partners like Hallborn are doing in gaming. And so it was a really good vibes, a really good way to start the week and start our week of events.
Awesome. Yeah, just to recap, VRF is Secret's random number generator, and it's verifiably random on-chain random number generation. which is, it sounds like it's like how special is that, right? Random numbers. However, it's actually really hard to make real random number generations and or generators. And if you don't make a real random number generator, it can be um, backwards decoded so that you can actually figure out. There's been cases where people have figured out what the random number would be based on the seed, because the seed, it's hard to keep that private on a public blockchain, and the seed and the amount of processing time kind of can be predicted to generate a certain random number. Whereas with our secret VRF, it's actually impossible because each block has its own private seed. So no one knows what the seed is. And when you generate a random number from that, it's impossible to predict what that might be, which has an amazing number of applications in voting, um, in lotteries, for example, in casino games, all of these things. You could even say Dungeons and Dragons. Anyone who's ever played Dungeons and Dragons knows that you encounter the trip missile as you go into the cave, and then you have to roll the dice to see if you're going to get hit by it or not. If you roll a certain number, you don't, and if you under that number, you do. Something like that. I'm not actually a D&D player, but I've heard. And so random number generation is extremely important to the game, because if you have loaded dice and you can always get a 20 on your 20-sided die, then you can always avoid that missile, which gives you an unfair advantage. So random number generator is critical in a lot of gaming applications and also in some real life applications. So that, just to make sure everybody understands what VRF is, that is what we were showing at the Pixel Party. Actually, that's what we were showing all week. And I would actually agree with you. I didn't go to the Pixel Party. I did go to Oniva, Cosmos Oniva, which is what we did in the NFT factory. And we talked about a whole bunch of, that was really fun for me. Just talked about a lot of things that people are doing in the space. And then Cosmos on the Vine was the women's event. And to me, that one stood out. And I think it's because we didn't talk about really business agendas. We talked about what it's like to be a woman in Web3. And the conversations were very honest and very heartfelt. It was definitely not a time for people to get together and criticize men. It was more just sharing experiences and sharing strategies and building those bonds. I really found it to be powerful. And a lot of the women talked to me afterwards and they had a similar experience. Jay, do we have you on stage now? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, you do. It wouldn't be a typical Tuesday unless I had technical difficulties. Um, I work with Lisa. I work with the team as director of marketing. I had the fortune of attending a lot of these events, just really to really quickly piggyback on what you were just talking about, as far as the event, for the women's event. Being there as someone to help set up and facilitate, I found the engagement to be really, really positive. Um, Everyone who was there really took the opportunity to meet one another, to network. Lisa, I know you were part of a panel that spoke about some key industry challenges and what your journey looked like to get to where you are. And it was a very well attended, very well participated, and focused event. And I actually look forward to seeing more of these coming down the pipeline. So I wanted to just shoulder that really
Yeah,
quickly.
thanks, Jay. It's great to have that perspective from you, because that was my impression as well. But it's always good to hear it from the other side.
And it wasn't a male bashing session either.
I hope not.
But what it really did focus on, for those of you who are unsure of it, it really focused on empowerment of women in this industry, how what success looks like, how it can be not only achieved but also maintained and curated in a world that sometimes women aren't necessarily in a position to be vocal, but that's actually not the case. And Lisa and panel really debunked some of those myths, I thought, in a very, very proactive and mindful way.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
that was my take.
That kind of leads into my next topic, which was building community in Web3. And so we'll come back to the events in a moment, but since Jay just did that perfect segue, let me say that it's interesting to think about building community in this Web3 world. We're all converging, right? All of our, like AI is converging with blockchain, and all of these technologies are kind of overlapping and coming together. And at the same time, we're still human. We're all trying to adjust to this new world and also to build community and build connections within it. So one reason that I loved that women's event, Cosmos on the Vine, was that it was very real. Like, people were very real. People felt safe to talk about things that they wouldn't necessarily talk about in online public forums. So what do you think, Jay? Do you have any thoughts about how can we build community in a mostly online world that has real connections and authentic, genuine communications?
I think it's doing hosting more events like this, where it's really not an event as more of a. Let me rephrase that. It is an event, clearly, but less structure, more personal one-on-one connections. I think it's really, to build a community, you have to start from the ground up, not from the top down. It's sometimes daunting when you're sitting in a room full of panel after panel after panel, and there really isn't an opportunity to mingle and to really ask specific questions, because not everyone's comfortable in a public speaking situation by raising their hands. And I think more events that really cater to the boots on the ground, where you can walk around. It's a more of a social type of thing, where there's not a lot of structure to it. There's a tone, there's a theme, but the structure of the event really needs to be conducive to open conversation and dialogue, where people can share whatever's on their mind, their experience, their challenges. So I think that would be
a good point. We all need real connection in the end. And I mentioned the fact that there was more communication at that event than there would be in an online forum. One reason for that is that we feel fairly exposed when we're online. We don't know how someone's going to take, like you write an email, you don't know if it's going to be forwarded. You don't have any control over your communication after it leaves your hands. So, and there's not a lot of privacy there. If you're on a forum, you could be talking to people, and that comment can be taken out of context. It can be misread. It can live on far past the moment in which you said it. What if you had a particular political view on this day in your life, and in 3 months, your perspective had completely changed, and you now saw a completely different perspective on your political stance. And yet that statement is out there and living forever, and people might bring you back to it all the time. And we've seen this, like in elections, in how things are made public. And, just everything we do is now subject to mass transparency. So I was thinking about the concept of privacy in community in Web3. And I think it's really important to think about, how do we make a safe space like we had at Cosmos on the Vine, where people can talk and feel like some of us process out loud. I can say, I'll tell you, I've had a lot of conversations with my partner where he says, wait a second, I didn't know you meant that. And I was like, no, I don't mean that. I'm just testing different theories out loud with my voice. So some of us process out loud, and we don't want everything we say to be taken as our deeply held beliefs that will never be shaken. So I'm just thinking about this concept of privacy in community in Web3. And, does anybody have any thoughts about how we can implement? I mean, we're a secret network. We're all about privacy. How can we bring some of that privacy into our online interactions?
I think it's really a lot about education. When I was walking through the events in Paris, whether it be at our booth at Nebula, or whether it be at some of these after hours events, a lot of people knew and heard Secret Network. They've heard about us. They had an idea of what we do, but really not uh, a lot of information as far as what it really means to them. Whether they're a dev, how can they access the tech stack? If they're an investor, if they want to get involved in the community, I think it really, first and foremost, top of the funnel, just awareness and education, to help people realize that it's a service that everybody can use, and it's your right to have privacy.
Right.
And yeah, and so that would be my first knee jerk answer to that question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if anybody has, feel free to put up your hand, anyone in the audience, if you have a thought about community privacy online, in the online Web3 sense, and we'll bring it to the stage and to talk. But coming back to our main topic for the moment, let's think about what are your hot takes of the whole event. So we had ETHCC, then we had ETH Global Hackathon, then we had all our side events, then we had Nebular, and in there was also a hackathon with Zama. So there was a lot going on. Can you take any generalizations? Lindsay, I might put you on the spot here. Can you take any generalizations about the industry, where the industry is going, where ETH is going, where Cosmos is going, what things are like? Like, here we are at what we hope is the end of a bear market. I don't know if you've heard, but the bear market is over. Someone told me that this morning and I laughed. And I've been trying to find a place to use this joke all week, so I'm just going to drop it here. Can we change the bear market into a beer market and celebrate the end? I know it's not a very good joke, but it really made me laugh, and I really wanted to find a place to share it. So I'm world's worst joke teller. Thanks, Lindsay.
I thought that was funny.
All right. So anyway, what did you take away from the entire long 2 weeks? Any high level takeaways?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is community still matters. I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I'm not trying to be negative, because I know there were a lot of conversations about if the Cosmos ecosystem is, going downwards or things like that. But I think more than anything, I think these events just show the importance of community, good, bad, or indifferent. I think a lot of the events had some of their unique struggles, but I think the biggest kind of one of the takeaways is that we're all still kind of in this together. And I know the whole WAGMI is true to a lot of people's core, but I think we're eager for the bear market to be over, whether or not it actually is, because I remember seeing in the Telegram group chats, like before I even landed, bear market's over, bear market's over. So I think regardless of what anyone's saying about Ethereum or Cosmos, I think we're all just deeply optimistic in our core that we want it not only to be over, but the thing that we're building to matter and to see true scale. I think that all of us are holding this deep-seated optimism, whether or not people want to admit that or not, that we want what we're working on to matter, and we want more people to acknowledge the potential that it has.
Well said, Lindsay. Very nice. Yeah, I guess we are deeply optimistic, or we wouldn't be here, right? We've been holding on through this past year or so. Do you realize it's getting close to being able to say it's a year since FTX? We're heading that direction. I can't even believe that. Yeah. Anyway, so it's definitely been a year since some of the things like Terra, for sure. We're past a year on that. So some of the bad news. It's really been quite a year with a lot of bumps. Going back to the actual event. So Nebular was the last event that we attended, and that was definitely a Cosmos event. I am new to the Cosmos ecosystem, so it's very interesting for me to come in and see what the mood is in Cosmos, because having been in a multi-chain environment for a long time, knowing about Cosmos, I really had a very positive perspective on Cosmos as a generalist. My impression of John Cosmos is, plays well with others, as I said last week. But I think that most people do have a pretty positive perspective on Cosmos. It's just that the conversation has been moving towards ETH. The developer conversation has been moving towards ETH for like quite a few months now. And this week there was a lot of, not optimistic news about Cosmos. It could be just a general, at the moment people are thinking we're in a slump, but next week all the news could be good. These things change really quickly, but we are seeing that the energy from the developers is around ETH, and ETH is growing, Ethereum is growing, that ecosystem is growing. So I would say that the events bore that out. We saw a lot of energy at the ETH events, and then Nebular was a great event. I met a lot of OGs in the Cosmos ecosystem, which was great for me. But I felt like people were a little discouraged about where things were going. They were definitely still very, very bullish on Cosmos. But there weren't a lot of new people coming in. It was a lot of people meeting people they already knew and working together to support each other. So that was my impression. I'm hoping that we have an upturn soon in the market as a whole, and that affects Cosmos even more than anything else. But open to other thoughts. Patrick, did you have a thought about that as well?
Yeah, I think, as you said, there has been a lot of discussion over the past month or two, a lot of naysayers, articles going out saying like, Cosmos is failing to attract new users and it's kind of going stale, and drama with like the Cosmos hub and what is the purpose of the hub, and how that affects the ecosystem overall. But I would say what we can continue to do is just find ways that we can integrate with the Ethereum and the EVM ecosystems, and find new ways that we can collaborate both socially and like actually on chain with like cross-chain messaging protocols and bridges and things like that, ways that we can interoperate with the Ethereum ecosystem, so that that's the whole idea behind Cosmos, is interoperability. So it's not like we're stuck over here on an island, like bridged off from everybody else.
Right.
We can interoperate with the Ethereum ecosystem,
Exactly.
and we can bring in new users from that side. So we just need to focus on that.
Yeah, and we could focus on the highlight of the event, which was DYDX building their new platform, or the next version of their platform on Cosmos. I don't think they're building it on Cosmos for the for the news. They're building it for the technology. The technology is amazing, and the ability to interoperate with other blockchains is very powerful. And the ability to create your own custom chain, to roll up your own custom chain with what you need in it, and still be able to work with other chains, like that is a great story. So I think what you're saying, Patrick, is that Cosmos doesn't need to be the out front and center, everyone come to Cosmos. It's more that we can be the technology that other things are built on seamlessly. It's like a war between TCP/IP and some other protocol. It doesn't matter what the protocol is. If it works, then it can enable a lot of applications to be built on it.
Yeah, and as we continue to improve the user experience, with things like integrating MetaMask, for example, into Secret, if we can do that, then it won't really matter to users like which blockchain they're using. That'll kind of just be going on in the background, and it'll be seamless. They won't really know, oh, I'm jumping from the Ethereum ecosystem to the Secret ecosystem. That's just kind of something that's going on in the background, and they're just using dApps. That's all they know.
Right.
So if we can improve the user experience to that level, then I think we can see a whole lot of growth.
Yep. So another thing that I wanted, unless there's any more comments about Paris, I wanted to move on to what we're doing next. But happy to take questions about Paris, or Lindsay, Jay, or Patrick, if you have anything else that you think we should cover.
The only thing that I wanted to just end with, you had mentioned that Nebula are being more of a, people who know one another coming together as a reunion type of place. It's not always a bad thing, especially in this down market. It really does foster solidarity. It fosters the, fact that we are all in it together and that we're all, just forging a path. And if we can keep coming together, it's not a bad thing. But, as far as new business, it wasn't necessarily the most conducive, but it certainly locked in what we currently have. So I would consider it a win in that capacity. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Jay. And definitely we made some great connections at that conference too. So next up, we're going to ETH Toronto, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks in August. So we're having a hackathon. So ETH Toronto is a hackathon, obviously. It's being organized a little bit differently. So it's part of the Futurist Conference, which is the largest crypto conference in Canada. And I judged last year's ETH Toronto. This year, they're doing it a little differently. I think they're a little bit ahead of their time. They're pioneering, because instead of having the hackathon at the event, which means that none of the developers can do any of the events or attend any of the talks, they have to just be sitting there coding the entire event. They came up with the idea of having the mentorship, so the mentor hours, the workshops at the event, at the Futurist Conference, but then having the judging happen a week later. So the developer teams can be formed at the conference. Actually, they can be formed ahead of the conference. They can be formed right now. If you're interested in participating, we're going to be offering some amazing prizes, bounties for the hackathon. And you can sign up for free at ETH Toronto, and you don't even have to go in person. You can sign up for free at ETH Toronto. You can join a team, come up with an idea, and compete for these prizes. So please do that if you're interested. And but anyway, so at the actual event, you'll form your teams if you don't have one already. You'll have access to the mentors so you can ask questions. And then following the event, we're going to have a video workshop to teach people how to actually code the applications, how to approach the solving of the problem. So during that video workshop, we can help you come up with the idea, flesh out the idea. We can answer questions about what we're looking for, like what types of applications would be interesting to us and that we might pick as the winners. But we'll have 3 different categories, and you'll have a week after the conference to complete it. The way I'm thinking about it right now, and this still has to be finalized, but what I'm thinking is that it's not going to be so much a code review kind of judging. It'll be an idea review. So I'm looking for great use cases. I'm looking for an architecture of how you would implement it, and some, maybe some UI to show how it would work, and just like proof of concept to make sure that what you're envisioning can actually be built, and this is how you would build it. So I'm looking for that. But in a week, I'm not expecting like a fully functioning MVP. I'm just looking for some interesting use cases. We did, so Phoenix with Zama did a hackathon in Paris, and it was incredible. I was blown away by it because we had 350 signups. We had about 50 people who actually showed up on the day. But of those 50 people, we got 10 projects. There were actually 10 projects that submitted for the prize. So they were very high quality projects. I got to sit through them. So I'm hoping that we can have a similar experience with ETH Toronto. I think that Cosmos attracts developers who are maybe a little more solid in their skills. Solidity is very easy to use, whereas Rust takes a little more background to be able to use it effectively. And I can tell you that I got an answer yesterday from the ETH Toronto hackathon that there's already 155 developers there who know Rust. So if you want to build a team to do something in secret, then go for it. You'll find a lot of people to add to your team. I'm sure anyone with an idea is going to be very interesting going forward. So anyway, that's the ETH Hackathon. So we're doing that. There will be more information coming out about it soon, what the bounties are and what categories we have for the bounties, and all the information about the workshops and mentor hours and everything. So that's exciting. And Futurist, we're also exhibiting at Futurist. So we'll have a booth there. And I'm on a panel. I think I'm moderating a panel, which I've been doing for a while. Anything else about Futurist or ETH Toronto that I should mention, Lindsay?
Well, I don't know if this is not necessarily specific to us, but I'm just excited about ETH Women in general, because there's a lot of amazing speakers that are going to be there. So
Yeah.
I'm just excited to be a part of that. So
Yeah, actually, you know what was surprising yesterday? They have 300 signed up for ETH Women and only 150 or 200 signed up for ETH Toronto. So there's more in ETH Women than in ETH Toronto. That blew me away.
I love that.
So after ETH Toronto, the next thing we have is the Breathe convention, which I definitely wanted to talk about as well. It's not your normal Web3 conference. This is really focused on the future of Web3 and how we now, like what I was talking about earlier, about building community in Web3, how we build community together. And this conference is not for the blockchain community exclusively. It's for brands and it's for startup founders, it's for execs, it's for students who want to come and learn more about Web3 in order to either build something in the space or have their brand connect with Web3 and use that in their marketing strategies or their product strategies, or students who want to find a new place to express themselves, navigate this new world. So it's really, I believe this convention, I'm really excited about this convention, and I think it's a way to up-level your life in terms of Web3 and change the way you think. So I encourage you to, if you haven't, I'll be speaking there on this topic of privacy and communities and building Web3 communities. And I encourage you to take a look at it. Would love to, if you end up being there, I would love to see my secret buddies there. So any other things about that I should mention, Lindsay? I know you've looked into it a bit more too.
I'm excited about what you're talking about as far as privacy at Breathe. And I know you're also going to be chatting about some upcoming legislation at other events, but I'm excited for Breathe because I think it's going to be a really great way to bring some of the usability features from Web3 companies into more of the mainstream with more Web2 companies. And I think that's a great kind of twofold win. It's a win not only for usability and adoptability for Web3, but it's also a win for Web2 companies to continue to innovate in the best interest of their users.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I've been to countless blockchain conferences and I see a lot of the same people everywhere around the world. We all move around from city to city and we see each other. But I'm really interested in like expanding that circle to outside the blockchain ecosystem and outside our bubble, bringing more people into. That's really been my focus for a long time, is how do we make blockchain more adoptable by everybody, which is honestly why I joined Secret, because I think that privacy is one of the biggest hurdles that we have to jump if we want it to be universally useful. So that brings us to the end of our scheduled agenda, but we have some time for questions. So now I'm just going to start chatting aimlessly until somebody puts up their hand to ask a question. So if you want to save your fellow listeners from bad jokes, then definitely put up your hand. And maybe Jay or Lindsay has some bad jokes they could share as well.
I have too many bad jokes that I'm no longer allowed to tell. At least that's what my family tells me.
Do you have dad jokes?
I have a lot.
I have
of dad
such
jokes.
little patience for dad jokes.
Yeah, so does the rest of my family. But it's what we do, My moms get cold and dads tell bad jokes, and that's really how it works.
I like the beer market idea.
You like my beer
Cheers
market?
to that.
I do too. Cheers to that for sure.
Let's do it. Let's make it a thing. Can we run a campaign on renaming the bear market to the beer market? I don't even like beer. That's the problem. If I have to drink beer, this is not going to work.
Same. Let's have a champagne
Well,
market.
it's really more of it's a placeholder.
Yeah.
Champagne market on a beer budget. How's that?
Okay, that works.
My life story.
I could get on board with that. All right. If we don't have any questions and nobody has anything else they want to talk about, then I think we'll wrap it up a little bit early. And thank you so much, everybody. And I'm actually thinking how we can use this space in the future. So if you have ideas, feel free to drop me a line and tell me what you want to hear. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Have a good one.